So since I'm paying money, this is like my apartment, so you're all in my house. In my house, I want to go by my rules. We treat everyone in here with respect. Let them complete their sentences, especially their speeches. So we're going to let everyone, pretty much everyone in here is not a child. They're even more mature than a lot of people. So I think we all get it. If anyone's going to cause a disruption, and I'm not even talking to the right people. So anyway, that's why police are here. If somebody is going to cause a problem, then I'm going to have them removed, basically. So, okay. Okay, I got the flag. Let's all do a Pledge of Allegiance right now. Pledge of Allegiance. All right. So if anyone's, not willing to participate, that's how you can tell. That's a tell. All right, count three. 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. With that being said and done, I'm just going to say I care about free speech. I care about it. And to the point of almost absolutism, the fact that I don't like hate speech. I don't like what those people are against, or what they say they're against, which is Nazis or fascists and stuff. I don't like that stuff personally. So they don't get it. We have that in common, I guess. But that's just what they're saying. So anyway, the point is, the way that you can tell if someone's a good person or a bad person is off of what they say. You know what I mean? It's an identifier. You don't know if someone is an evil person until they start talking. Otherwise, maybe your neighbor is this hideous person and you just go out to coffee all the time and you don't really know what their thoughts are. It's important to know people's thoughts, I think. It's important to know what they are. Let them talk, right? So, that's my perspective. It's a way to identify. Anyway, with my view of free speech out there, I'd like to introduce one of our first speaker, in fact, Cole Rainey. And he's got a YouTube channel and a show, The Rainey Report. Let's give it up for Cole Rainey.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah. My name is Cole Rainey. I host a couple YouTube and Facebook shows called The Rainey Report and SJW Spotlight, where I expose our state's most cringeworthy and conniving social justice warriors. So you guys should check that out. Also, I write as a freelance journalist for the Freeman Report and Free Speech Northwest. So, I'm going to give a speech today about something that's very important to me. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm proud so many patriots decided to come support the unification of our republic, because unity is so important in the United States. In recent years, we've become severely divided by race, gender, sexual orientation, and political affiliation. But in the midst of all this division, we lose sight of what unites us. The United States is the strongest nation in the world because of our shared values. We all stand on the principles of individualism, character, and liberty. These principles are the support beams our country was founded upon, and to compromise them would result in the collapse of the nation. I'm going to go through each of these pillars and describe how we all benefit from and are protected by these principles. In the United States, we all share the freedom to be ourselves. Unlike other nations where you're legally stoned to death for being gay or forced by law to conform to societal standards, the United States embraces Western liberalism. Western liberalism being the catalyst for the most individualistic society in the history of the world, ours. Individualism is the essence of American society. We're allowed to think freely, and that's what makes this country great. In other nations like North Korea, you're forced to conform to whatever the state dictates is acceptable, all the way down to your haircut. In America, we have the marketplace of ideas to decide what's acceptable. Everyone is unique and is able to express themselves freely. Americans are free to be whoever they want to be. The individual is our nation's backbone. The collective heart of America shines bright. When we go through turmoil and tragedy, we come together as a nation and reaffirm the durability and strength of our republic. After the Challenger disaster, we came together. After the Kennedy assassination, we came together. After the 9/11 attacks, we came together. And in the midst of chaos, the hearts of millions of Americans shine bright like 1,000 points of light all across our nation. Throughout our nation's history, Americans have helped one another grieve. After natural disasters, hundreds of thousands always step up to volunteer. Charity is a cornerstone of our society, and we're better for it. Americans having hearts is a good thing. The new fad of being heartless is nothing more than a ploy to create hate and division. We love one another, and even during our worst times, we never forget that we're all Americans. And as Americans, we share certain natural, God-given rights. These rights are not granted by government. The assertion that the government doles out our rights assumes that the government is in charge of us, when the reality is, here in the United States, we, the people, are in charge of the government.
Yeah, right.
We have the freedom to express ourselves to the fullest extent. We have the freedom to be an individual and to pursue our dreams. Our capitalistic economic system allows anyone from any background to succeed with the right mindset and work ethic. We also have the right to self-defense. The right to protect yourself is God-given. Inherently, there will be threats to your safety. That's just the world we live in. But to disarm the public permits the government, criminals, or gangs to potentially kill you and your family. Second Amendment rights are women's and gay rights as well. The Pulse nightclub shooting could have been stopped by just one good guy with a gun. A woman about to get raped, robbed, or killed has the right to pull out her weapon and protect herself. The Second Amendment protects those of us with a conscience from those of us without one. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. These values unify us all. As Americans, we should embrace these principles as they keep us free, safe, and happy. The freedom to be yourself is crucial to your happiness. And America is the most individualistic society in the history of the world. The character of Americans is foundational to the strength and durability of our republic. Our republic stands strong as the greatest nation in the history of the world. Our character, individualism, and liberty defines us and is our tradition. I'm proud to be an American because in my life, I've been blessed with inalienable rights that nobody can take from me. As we enter the new roaring 20s, we must fight tyranny, preserve liberty, and protect the American way of life. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Cole. That was pretty awesome. I appreciate that. Absolutely. I agree with everything that you said. So now, next on the agenda is Ray McMillan. So let's give it up for comedian and writer Ray McMillan.
Hello, I'm the token liberal cuck. So I want to get something right out the gate. I'm here to talk about identity politics. I'm not here to talk about left or right. Several of the people outside and I have shared many joints together. And I'm afraid that if what happens after me speaking in front of everyone today, that none of them will be letting that happen again. And I'm also afraid that people under this roof will hear what I'm about to say and disagree with me. I'm hoping it will happen, and I'm hoping people will nod their head. I'm hoping more viewpoints will grow to the stage, and I'm hoping there will be some civil disagreement. So is that all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So I'm gonna look at my phone once. It's a term we hear about called identity politics. Are you familiar with this? Okay, we're gonna go to Wikipedia. We're not gonna go to CNN or Fox News. Identity politics refers to a tendency of people sharing a particular racial, religious, ethnic, social, or cultural identity to form exclusive political alliances instead of engaging in traditional politics. So I'm here to prove that identity politics is neither. If your skin color, if your gender, if your country determines you, that is not an identity. And the fact that I'm white, the fact that I'm male, the fact that I may or may not be gay, depending on who's here tonight, none of that matters to my belief systems. The former speaker came up here and talked about how guns are pro-choice, and goddamn it, they are. But I got into an argument with a friend of mine on Facebook when she says, hands off my body because of abortion. I go, well, what about your property? What about the rest of you? What happens if you have a gun and you can stop that? Well, that sounds like alt-right Nazi hate speech. And there it is. There's the word that we can take and put any good idea into. 5 plus 5 is 10. Who said it? Trump. Well, then it can't be 10. The person on the other side, if Donald Trump, I don't like that guy, by the way. I voted for Jill Stein because I eat acid and I like women. But Donald Trump could cure cancer tomorrow. Every one of those kids outside would be smoking cigarettes in protest. I'm dead serious. Now here's what I'm here to talk about, is the concept I learned. I am a leftist. I'm a leftist by 1995 definitions. I believe in you own your body. You're allowed to do whatever you want with it. Your land is your land, my land is my land. Stay the hell off of my crotch, I'll stay the hell off of yours. And what you do with your crotch and what I do with my crotch and my wallet has nothing to do with each other. Amen. Those beliefs today place me just right of Hitler. The fact that I want my gun-toting, weed-smoking gay friends to be able to get married is now labeled as something that only Hitler would say. This is a fantastic clown world time to be alive, amen? Honk, motherfucking honk. I'm sorry for the children in the world, but if you honk loud enough, the Salem Library gives you a platform. So I'm here to talk not just to the folks outside, I'm here to address Patriot Prayer, I'm here to address Alex Elkin, anyone that identifies as a group. When you have a thing called intersectionalism, and here's how intersectionalism works, think of an actual intersection. I'm going to use my friend Kareem here. I'm going to token you out because you're there, you're black, you've got a mustache and a hat, okay? So if my intersection is being white, being autistic, and being balding, your intersection is being black, I'm guessing maybe Republican, and having a hat. If we let so many, picture an intersection. Picture an intersection. Kareem has 3 roads, I have 4 roads. Well, what about religion? What about my background? What about my income? Now we have 900 frickin' roads all trying to get through the same intersection. And at the end of the day, we're not fringe groups. I'm Ray McMillan. You're Jane Doe. I don't know if your name's Jane. I didn't want to assume you're Jane, but point is, once we take into account all of these different groups we belong to, whether or not it is nationalism, whether or not it's anti-fascism, you lose your identity. I do not align with anybody within a square mile politically, and I am proud of that fact. And I hope that no one else in here does too. Because ideas, thank you, ideas are unique. If I'm forced to remove my label as a white guy or a straight guy or a gay guy, and you're forced to label as a black guy, then our ideas compete. And the reason we're being protested, not me, I don't know, I'm probably being protested for wearing this, but it clashes. But the reason some people are getting protested, they say you're an alt-right Nazi, you belong to this group, you're a Proud Boy, you must believe that Nazis off. I'm sorry, I don't recall seeing the Third Reich outside the Salem Library. No. I don't recall seeing those ideals. I do look outside. I see thought control. I see people bootlicking the government's speech restrictions. Yep. I see people that are disenfranchised groups calling for guns to be removed. Yep. There's nothing liberal out there. There's nothing conservative in here. I'm all about new stuff. I smoked DMT because I heard about it on a podcast, almost died. Not conservative. But what I am doing is I'm standing in front of a room full of people who I'm going to go ahead and roll a 10-sided DMT dice that 1, only 3 of you know what that is. And 2, that we're probably not going to all get along. I watch this gentleman's videos, I curse you out, and then I go, God, what a great point. That is engagement. If I wanted to have someone agree with me and to suck me off mentally, me and Alex Elkin would just go talk about fat comedians from Portland all night long, and then we could have our little circles. That's not what we're here to do. So now I'm going to address the people in the room instead of the people outside the room, and I might get beat up for saying this. I agree with a lot of people's ideas. I do not agree that group membership, with the exception of parents, needs any kind of applause. Parents deserve applause, because you guys, look what you're doing. That was parents. I might have kids. I'm not taking care of them. You're taking care of 4. Those 2 and the 2 protesters that yelled at you on their way in. All right, so aside from parenting, which creates new people, my belief system shouldn't matter. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-gun. I'm anti-abortion and I'm anti-murder. I believe this is a great country, and I believe it's a great country because I have a right to tell everyone in this room to fuck off. And I'm sorry if I had to say it like that, but that is the point of this. There should be disagreement here. I wish those kids would come in here and stand on this stage and have folks listen, and I wish that you would get back up here and have them listen. Take off their Hello Kitty masks. Put down their homemade squirt guns. Now I'm here addressing Proud Boys right wing. I will say one thing to you. I'm not part of your group. Here's how I ended up becoming on your poster. I have constantly believed in free speech. I've constantly believed in body autonomy. I've constantly believed in being proud of where the hell you are. In 1990, that made me a gay liberal. Today, it makes me Nazi. I'm not going to change my stance on free speech regardless of what group you put me in. End of story. If I share the stage with Proud Boys and drag queens, I am proud to be up there with both of them. Now, a Proud Boy drag queen show might be a few years away. Might have to dial that one back. I will be the first person to buy tickets. Now, I'll leave you with this. If you're wondering who the hell I am and what I do, I edited a publication. I edited a publication called Exotic. Go ahead and call my boss. He's right here. Now, Exotic is a strip club magazine. People are supposed to open this magazine and see pictures of naked ladies and read jokes like Playboy used to have. For the last 5 years, Exotic magazine has been the only home for writers that get told by the Mercury this is hate speech. Writers that get told by the Willamette Week this is hate speech. Left, right, black, gay, straight, everything. And I want you to know that the only publication in town is the strip club publication. That's where we've gotten with ideas. I'm dead serious. I get writers. I had one guy, a cop, write in about, can I please publish this in your magazine? So there's a giant diatribe about how this officer is a human being next to an ad for Sylvia's Playhouse open 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. We are putting good ideas into the fridges of society, and everyone in this room would get along with people out there. I hate to be all kumbaya and shit. Everyone agrees in body autonomy. Everyone agrees we should be able to smoke weed, marry someone of the same sex, carry a gun, and go talk at Casey Okupe's thing because he invited you on Facebook and every single one of your friends deleted you when they found out you were on the flyer. So, here today to disagree. I'm here today to say, you know what, let's disagree, let's talk about ideas, but your identity is not you. What you put on the census box should not be there in the first place. You and I, we all share a lot more in common. Except I don't know how I could parent. Like, I seriously don't know how I can do that. He's changing the diaper and listening. I am easily distracted. So I'll leave you with this. I went down the YouTube rabbit hole. I found people like Mr. Reagan. I found people like ContraPoints. And they said, I want to be challenged. This thing up here is a muscle. This thing you got in your skull is a muscle. Everybody, Antifa, Proud Boys, you, parents, well, parents don't have time. But everybody else needs to exercise this goddamn thing before it falls off. Thank you very much.
That was awesome. I want to give it up again for Ray McMillan. So I see a lot of people in here with Nation shirts on. So Joey Nations, running for CD5 in 2020, is coming up to tell us a little bit about Americanism. Let's give it up for Joey Nations.
Well, I'm so happy to see so many good patriots here. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Right? So the biggest thing I want to talk about is going to be America. Does everybody have a problem with America? Probably not. You're in this room, right? You love it? Why? Because you live here, right? Okay, that's why you love America, because you live here. It's common sense to love this country. It's your home. Those people out there, I typically ignore them entirely because they're pretty much ramen-eating soy boys. We don't have to worry about their future in America because we're going to build right past them and go right past them, okay? So what I want to talk about, a little bit of an introduction to myself, who the heck I am, and then we're going to go through my background, revolutionary patriotism, what the heck that means, and how do we keep America the best country in the world? Because that's what it is right now. Does everybody agree America is the best country in the world? Yeah. So, my name is Joey Nations. You'll see me on the news. You'll see me all over Kaiser Fest right now. You'll see me hopefully everywhere in the coming year. I'm going to beat Kurt Schrader in 2020 for Congressional District 5. The reason we're going to beat Kurt Schrader is because he's a long-term politician who's been there way too long and does not put American citizens first. In fact, he typically will put us last on every piece of legislation that he gets. Now, I'm a father. I have 2 young kids. They were with me in the parade today. You saw us surfing in the back of a truck together if you were there. That's why this country has to be put first. Who here has family? Who has children, grandchildren? Anybody here? Yes. Okay. This is exactly why I'm here. My background as a father is the most important thing because I have a future to build for my children, and I'm going to build it right here in Oregon. The background about myself that I want you to know is that I worked in a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. and in Salt Lake City for years, and I saw the absolute worst sausage-making process that you all know exists in Washington, D.C., and at a young age. And so I was there during Obama's first term. I was there watching the corruption that was happening to this country, left and right. We were being sold down the river. And so we're talking about globalism. Does everybody know what globalism is? Okay. Yes, that is not good for our country. We need Americanism. So what I saw a lot of in Washington, D.C. and in Salt Lake City, Utah, the clientele that we had, the people we met with, the people we were fundraising for were all globalists. All of them were interested in one thing, cash. Cash is what dictated all of their actions. So as a young man, married, trying to earn my way, I'm seeing the worst part of American politics. The very worst. And I lived it, breathed it, saw it, worked in it. And I was so disgusted after 5+ years that I told my wife, honey, I can't do the 80-hour+ weeks anymore. I can't be part of the problem anymore. We have got to get out of this mess. And so we left that job and we started to look around for places that still had Second Amendment freedoms, that still had a balance in the political realm. And Oregon fit every single bill for us. 8 years ago now, we have lived here. Our children were born here in Salem. We love this town. We love this state. That's why we chose Oregon. You can have guns here still, thankfully. And the biggest thing at the time was the political balance. Now, in the time that we've been here, that political balance has disappeared. And so now we all see the Oregon that we once knew, whether you grew up here or you moved here 8 years ago like I did. You have seen, and guys, I love the babies. You can stay. It's okay. I really don't mind. Okay, all right. It's fine. So that is exactly why we moved here as a family. We wanted to raise our children in a place that was still Americana, and that is Oregon. People think that this is a leftist state, that we're a blue state. We're not. Does anybody here feel blue, or do you feel red? Red. Right? So that future that we hoped to build here, that's exactly why we came here. Okay? My children being born here means that I'm going to fight for Oregon. They have a future here. We have a future here. My background, I want you to know, is the thing that I want to fix. What I saw is a problem. And so when I go to Washington, D.C., all the things I saw are the things I'm not going to do. I'm going to do the opposite of what the lobbyists were doing out there, what the politicians that are already out there are doing. So when I say the opposite, they're all globalists, the opposite of that is America first. Does everybody here support America first? America first in my mind, and I'm going to break that down for you, what that means, okay? It's not just a statement. President Trump has brought that to the forefront in our society, thank God. But America first is a set of mind, it's a set of priorities. When I go and look at any piece of legislation, I'm going to be considering, what does this do for the American citizen? What does this do for the American worker? What does this do for our economy? And is it stopping the deficit spending that's hurting so many Americans? We have to look at putting us first. That's the first thing I promise is priority. I will make sure that on every piece of legislation, I'm looking for those America First priorities, and if it doesn't fit those, it's gone. And having been in that world and worked in D.C. and worked with the lobbyists and know who these people are, They will fight tooth and nail to make sure America is not put first, but they're going to have the strongest battle they've ever had on their hands coming out of the West Coast. Because we're going to get endorsements all over. President Trump's going to support us, and we are going to kick Kirk Schrader the hell out in 2020. Is everybody ready? America first is common sense, right? That's pretty common sense stuff. I've told you about my background. Now I want to explain how we put America first through revolutionary patriotism, because America being the best country in the world, which is the topic of my speech, that can end so quickly. If you don't think that President Trump can do this by himself, okay, you've been kidding yourself so far. As president, he's doing it by himself. He's doing great. He's kicking more ass than all of us probably thought he would. But he doesn't have the right team backing him up in Congress. That's where 2020 has to happen. So America First priorities for me are pretty simple stuff. It's everything that's going to keep America the best country in the world. When we look at revolutionary patriotism that will keep America the best country, we look at the culture in America. Does everybody realize the cultural war has almost been entirely lost until President Trump stepped in and told these leftist, insane people that America is a great place and the people are great, and we're standing up for this country again. Does that make everybody feel good about that? The news every night, the media, Hollywood, whoever it is, they're up there telling you America's bad. They want to divide our country. They want to divide it based on any kind of idea or any kind of difference between people they can. And so that's where we start, right there, the culture. We have to teach our kids to love America. My children are raised right. What I mean is that they love this country. I don't even care what your political party is. Now, I'm a big Republican, obviously, so I prefer that party. But I love everyone, whether you're a non-affiliated voter, a libertarian, independent, Democrat. We want you on the America First agenda. That's an easy one. And it starts with the culture. Wear your American clothes, wear your Make America Great Again hats. Don't be afraid to talk about the things you love about this country. That's what I want to do a little bit of right now, is speak about why I love America, why it's the best country in the world. American culture is the best. If you think all cultures are created equal, I would like to point out to you several countries: Venezuela, China, Cuba. Does anybody think American culture is inferior to those places? No. We have created the most free, the most liberty-loving, and the best armed country in the whole world. That is why our culture has to be upheld. We have built a society out of the wilderness. Hundreds of years ago, American Marines were fighting Muslims on the shores of Tripoli. If you don't know this country's history, strong, Christian, individual, rugged history, then you're missing out. I encourage you to go read, especially about Thomas Jefferson and the creating of the United States Marines and why that happened. It was to preserve our culture, to stop debt payments to Muslim sultans and to Muslim caliphs, and to make sure that Americans had a country to believe in and continue on with. Now that background is hundreds of years ago, and we can continue that background by saying the American identity, we are a Christian country. Does that mean other people can't live here? No, not at all. But you have to realize where our country comes from. The Bible was instrumental in creating this country. The Lord Jesus Christ was instrumental in this country. If you don't believe that America is the land of honey and milk, I would advise you to check again, folks, because we have the absolute best culture in the world, and it's not new. It's hundreds of years old, and you have to preserve that. And everybody here in this room, it doesn't matter what your background is, what your personality is, what your identity is, you're an American. If you're a legal citizen, you're an American, act like it. So, the last thing that I want to end on is about stopping two things. Illegal immigration, because it's going to ruin the American culture, which makes our country the best in the world. You cannot replace us with folks from other countries quickly, especially, and say that it's going to be the same. That's not going to happen. Americans need immigrants to assimilate, to speak English, to join our society. And so illegal immigration will be stopped. I will show you my policies some other time. Go to joeynations.com. I can tell you all day about how the policies I'm enacting and pushing will
will stop illegal immigration. The biggest thing I will do is work with Attorney General Barr to sue the heck out of Oregon for breaking the law, saying sanctuary laws are against the Constitution. So we will get that solved. I know I'm out of time, and I want to leave this for the Q&A as well. I want to get Americans' priorities straight. That means America first on the budget too. That means overseas, we bring our troops home. We start decreasing the amount of money that we're spending on foreign nations and foreign citizens. And I really just emphasize to folks, come talk to me, go to joeynations.com. Thank you for your time. I'll be here for questions. America's the best!
I thought he made some good points about America. So thank you, Joey. All right, Drew Mary. This is Drew Mary. He's going to talk to us a little bit about thought control. So that's what Drew's going to tell us about. So let's give it up for Drew Mary.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of busy right now. Got my notes here. Okay, got my notes. All right, so, well, I want to thank Casey for putting this on. This is great. And so glad he invited me. Let's see, about thought control. A little bit about my background is that I was in a cult for a number of years, and I was a convert, I wasn't raised, and so had a lot of adversity when I was young. And what that did was cause me to rebel and join a cult as a young kid. One of the things that a lot of people don't really understand about thought control is it's come out lately that the idea of thinking of it as more of a spectrum. So the spectrum, when we think of thought control, it's more undue influence, is what it's now being called. So when we think of this thought controls on the high end, with undue influence, and then after that we have politics, religion, and then we have culture on the low end. So it's more of a spectrum like that. And so, how many here are Christian? Quite a few. All right. Yeah, Christians are great, and it's nice that they're here to listen to an atheist talk about thought control. But my talk's not really like that. I'll get into how that works out, and it's really a good thing. Okay. So where did my notes go? Oh, sure. Okay, and so one of the important things about thought control is everyone's heard of cognitive dissonance theory. I'll explain how that goes. And what I've done before when I've given this talk is I've played a little video, and the video uses some visuals, so it's good to I'll have to substitute that with some hand gestures. It's good to think about it, or it's good to see the visuals with it. And one of the leading experts on thought control, he came out with what's called the BITE model, and it's an acronym. It stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotion. And and so how that goes into cognitive dissonance, it's an easy way to remember it. How we think of it is we take thought, behavior, and emotion. We take those three, kind of make a little visual triangle with that, and what that does is that's our mental paradigm. And think of that as kind of our map of how we determine reality. Okay. One thing I will say about the high end of thought control, the undue influence, one of the misconceptions about that is that it's all religious. It's not. What we have up there is we have isolation and we have polarization. And I think we kind of know how isolation works. It doesn't mean you're sitting there, sitting alone. You still have friends, but you only kind of socialize, associate with kind of people who think the same way. And with polarization, the difference there is they tend to vilify more. You end up just around the same people, but you're not isolated, but you tend to kind of just vilify people, and whereas the isolation end, they tend to have more of a claims of special knowledge. That's the term that's used a lot, is claim of special knowledge, so they think they're enlightened kind of way. And this is fun. So I'll get into it more on the thought, behavior, and emotion. And the video I play, it's of a little kid named Caleb, a little boy named Caleb. He's all excited. He's just got a friend gave him this cool toy, Sparlock the Warrior Wizard, and he comes home. He's playing it with it, and his mommy sees him, and his mommy has issues with that. And so she takes him aside and makes him a snack and says, "Well, how does God feel about magic?" And well, Caleb answers, God hates it. And you can see the cognitive dissonance going. The emotions are being pulled there. And what happens with cognitive dissonance, that triangle, it breaks. It'll break. The emotions and behavior, he's playing with the toy, gets separated, and he's kind of not worried about that. And then what his mom does is his mom takes him out to the front, or out to the sidewalk where the trash can is, and it shows him throwing it away. She talks him into throwing it away. And that's a behavior. And so the cognitive dissonance that was separated comes back together because he behaved. Behavior is kind of a linchpin to do this. And with behavior, we tend to go by default. We have a halo over our heads. So any way we behave, our default is to believe that's good. And so Caleb, he ends up believing in a God that hates wizards, Sparlock. And that's just one thought that goes to his behavior, goes to belief. So that's just one of his thoughts. And we all have all kinds of thoughts, multiple thoughts in our heads. And our mind is always fighting to keep thoughts, behavior, and emotions congruent. It does that. Our mind fights to do that. And we have so many thoughts that we're all keeping together. That's why we're often really confused people. And that's also why when you try to convince someone of one thing specific, one specific fact, and the information, they'll automatically reject it. And what we don't realize is that we're not just convincing of one little thing, we're pulling a thread that kind of might undo a whole lot more than just the one thing that we think we're talking to them about. Okay, and so our minds are all set in a certain mental paradigm sort of way, all kinds of thoughts. So what I'm going to get into with Christianity is just a little briefly of its history, written down 2,000 years ago. And then Constantine kind of compiled what we have as what we know as the Bible, but it was in Latin, and there were very few people who were literate for 1,000 years or so, and until Luther came along and the Gutenberg press, and the rates of literacy increased, and so that created a mental paradigm of people who believed that Jesus was the prime example in their life. And with that mental paradigm, that strong like that, that's going to create a whole lot of change in the culture. could see the differences in culture where they believe something else other than Jesus. You can see the difference that religion, the effect religion has on each and every culture. They're all very different. And from my view, I think culturally, we're all pretty much Christians here today. Even though I say I'm an atheist, I think culturally, pretty much anyone here is culturally a Christian. It's just had that much influence on our culture. Let's see. These are so much fun. I do love this. I guess I thought I was joking at first when I got out here, but no, I wasn't kidding around. All right.
We have about 2 more minutes.
2 more? I'm almost done. Yeah. All right. So I'll give you a quick example of high control, undue influence on steroids. When I was in a cult, one of the things that was emphasized was do not be stumbling your brother. And in a parallel world, we also have, I think everyone's probably heard of microaggressions. I think most people have heard of that. And so they're pretty much the same thing. The goal is to not offend the one who's going to be most easily offended. The goal is to not offend them. And what that does is it restricts our speech. And when we restrict our speech, we restrict our thought. And so that's a bit of thought control on steroids. And yeah, for an ex-cult member with free speech under attack, that's so much information control that it's really scary, and it's good to know, or it's good to keep in mind that it's not only under attack legally, but we can see it under attack culturally too. And it looks like Casey's getting nervous, so I should get off the stage.
All right, that was Drew Mayer with thought control. Let's give it up for Drew one more time. Now we have a chart-topping comedian, Alex Elkin, and he's talking about tuber. I don't know what T-U-B-A-R.
That's an acronym.
Oh, one of those. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm usually not used to performing in front of so many people. We could have done this in my car, huh? How about that? We could all pass around a joint in freedom. It's good to see everybody here that's here for free speech. I don't work with podiums. I'm not a doctor. Plus I don't want people comparing, like I can see his spare tires past I don't want to be wider than the podium is what I'm saying. It took 3 cows to make this jacket. And we only needed 2, but I'm kind of sadistic. I came up here for the freedom of speech rally. I didn't know we were gonna have people outside yelling at us. I'm kind of honored. I mean, really. Right? I mean, look at those kids out there. Everybody able-bodied, under 30. They could be working, but no, they took the time to be here with us. They're not virtually here. They're like literally here. They put on pants, most of them. They left their houses, they left their parents' houses. And they came here to yell at us louder than we are yelling at them. I notice a difference between our 2 groups. I don't see one mask in here. I don't see people that are afraid to show their faces about what they believe. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm proud to say that for the past 2 years, after my wife was able to quit her job, that I've been putting food in the tummies of my children and baseball bats in their hands and a roof over, well, not for those purposes. Although it's getting close! The point I'm making is I've been doing that on jokes in America. I've been able to tell jokes in this country because of this golden gem that we hold so dear, and some of us don't, of freedom of speech. I think there's a reason that it was the first thing that they made sure they mentioned when they talked about our freedoms. We have to be able to share ideas. We have to be able to get ideas across. If we can't communicate with our very children, then we have nothing, because they're just going to grow up not knowing what communication is, and they're going to put on a mask and they're just going to scream louder and louder until they get their way. And I know about children. I've got 3 young ones. They're out in the car, and they're all right. They got cigarettes and NyQuil. They're fine. Right? Kids love NyQuil, don't they? You look like you were raised on NyQuil. You're falling asleep right now during my shit. NyQuil's just nighttime juice. It's good. An 8-ounce glass of NyQuil with dinner. You can get something done. Mom, don't judge me with those eyes. I try it. You'll hear some bullshit like, oh, my liver hurts, but you know, that's just the baby liver. That'll fall off. Some people would find that offensive. If the kid was somewhat not interested in the game that he's playing, probably would find that. I find that offensive as a child. You know what? You're welcome to find it offensive, but I'm also free to say it. I'm free to have these. That's right. I'm free to say these things. And you have the power to either sit there and listen and laugh and let it roll off your back, or you can get up and walk out and put on a mask. I choose to stand on the front lines of freedom of speech right now. I'm doing it as a comedian. When I saw the protesters here, I thought maybe they got confused and thought I was Louis C.K. or something. But apparently the only people circle jerking in front of people that don't want to see it are outside. Thank you, I wrote that on the way here. Don't laugh at that on camera, you'll never be president. I think we have something very precious here while we're all here today looking at freedom of speech, because there's nothing more important in this country. It's what I try to teach my kids, and I've raised my kids on it, and we've paid our bills and paid our mortgage with it, the freedom of speech. There's people that have fought overseas for these freedoms, and they've laid their lives down for it. And it's a sad memory for them when we see the little ones out there pissing on that flag and that memory. However, those people died so that they could do that. So I appreciate each and every one of you out here who's not out there screaming at them and trying to throw pepper spray and cold water on their fire. One day they'll be 35. Right? One day they might have a child that is somehow more important than their little world, and they might have to think of somebody other than themselves, and maybe we might be able to get through to them. It's kind of sad that we are losing a generation right now that fought for those freedoms so hard. We had a generation in World War II, men and women that laid down their lives so that jerks like me could come up and say stuff like this to good people like you. And I'm not even asking for your vote. I got nothing to gain by being here except being on some Facebook community group going, look who's a Nazi now! So the fat guy from Lost came out to the Salem library and started his hashtag hate speech. It's gotten to the point where if they hate what you speak, that's hate speech. I hate what you're saying. That's hate speech. I've been thrown into Facebook jail over hate speech. It's because we got little social justice warriors sitting at home right now. They're not the ones that could get up the stairs to come outside. They're still in mom's basement on Facebook, saving the world from scary words. Blocking everybody for the good of the world. You've seen them, they've got their little safety pins of justice. They got their green hair, their bag of Cheetos, and an orange crotch. Oh, it's freedom, baby, freedom. I can say it, you don't have to listen. But it's true. And they're telling us what we can and can't say, and I say no.
we had people that died and fought for that, which brings me to wow. They've gotten to the electrical system. Why 2-bar? What is 2-bar? I had a grandfather that fought in Korea and a great uncle that was in World War II. And he told me an acronym of when things got so bad that you couldn't comprehend it, but you had to move on. The acronym was FUBAR. Anybody heard of FUBAR?
Yeah.
Can somebody say it with me? That's right. Fucked up beyond all recognition. And the sad thing now is I think with our youth out there, they've forgotten FUBAR. They just say fuck it. Or, what's worse, they say 2-bar. Triggered, unfriended, blocked, and reported. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Alex Elkin, everybody.
Alright, let's give it up again for Alex. That was awesome. That's a 2-bar out there. So now I'd like to welcome Michael Strickland, and I don't know if you've seen the video. He's the guy. Have you seen the cowbell video? Yeah, we're gonna let him actually get to talk here. So let's give it up for Michael Strickland.
I'm pretty right on with the microphone here. So my name is Michael Strickland. I never intended to become any sort of public figure. This just sort of happened by accident. You know, there's some folks in the room are really good at turning the camera towards themselves and talking about things, putting up online their personalities. That was never my thing. I looked at what I did as more of a pure journalistic thing. You know, I used to tout myself as the most accurate source of political news in the Pacific Northwest. I ran a YouTube channel called Laughing at Liberals, and I would go to events all around the Portland area or through the I-5 corridor, things that were not being covered by mainstream media that I felt should be. I filmed a lot of things going on at the colleges in the area, a lot of the politicians' town halls, a lot of protests in the streets, and I just post stuff up, you know, with minimal commentary. Really, the only time that I'd get into commentary is if it's a more investigative piece. Then I'd have to, you know, explain everything that's going on. So this all reared its head come July 7th, 2016. I'm out there filming a protest. I'm not there to argue with anyone or cause trouble. I like to take a fly-on-the-wall perspective. So I'm just standing there, I got my camera up on the monopod, I'm just filming the speakers at the steps. And the next thing I know, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a gang of these thugs coming right at me. This was long before Joey was out out on the streets. You know, before the other Joey was running for Congress. So, you know, this was not a thing where there's, you know, two competing groups or like, you know, 20 or 30 people with me. I'm out there by myself. So, I noticed a gang of these thugs with their masks on coming straight for me, led by a guy, his name is Benjamin Carenza. He literally weighs 400 pounds. He's twice my size. He's got a very lengthy criminal history. They're making a beeline straight for me. They start encircling me from behind. And the big dude starts pushing and shoving me. Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! I'm like, whoa, hey, don't put your hands on me! Don't put your hands on me! I immediately start backing away because I'm not there to fight. I'm not there to cause trouble with anyone. So a bunch of other people are coming and running into the scene. A lot of the protesters, they know who I am. They don't like me because I post what actually happens at protests. When they're shouting through the megaphone about shooting police officers, when they're smashing windows, when they're assaulting bystanders. I was there filming it all, posting it up online. I had several videos that would make it onto Fox News and a lot of big websites. It had all started off as a hobby, but it eventually grew into, you know, my primary source of income. So I started backing away. A bunch of other people are now coming to run into the scene. I got all these people, you know, harassing me, screaming and yelling at me, coming in from multiple different angles. You know, I felt like a pinball bouncing around when the big dude was manhandling me, as one witness said. So I'm backing away the entire time, and it reaches a point where another guy is circling around my back. So my attention is distracted to my right. I notice the big dude now coming up on my left side, my blind side. And at that point, I had every reason to believe that these guys in a mob mentality were just seconds away from pummeling me into the ground, robbing me of my camera gear, my computer gear. Now, that had actually happened to me 14 months prior to this. In 2015, I had 2 video cameras stolen from me. I was body slammed on the pavement, my arm shattered, requiring multiple surgeries. District attorneys never charged the guy. He never faced any repercussions for it. So in the situation that I now find myself in 2016, no police anywhere to be seen. You got hundreds of people marching through the streets, not a single uniformed police officer. These guys are all in masks. I have no reason to believe whatsoever that anybody who's about to beat and rob me is going to be identified or ever brought to justice. So at that point, I had no choice. You know, I had been backing away. That didn't deter them. I used verbal commands. That did not deter them. I flipped my monopod upside down to use that as sort of a non-lethal intermediary option. That did not deter them. I exhausted all these other options, and finally it's, hey, get the hell back. Everybody needs to get the hell away from me. You tell me what else I'm supposed to do in that situation. Huddle down in the fetal position and take the beating? Hope I survive? Hope that my computer and camera gear is recovered? So fortunately, everybody stopped and or got back. The threat had been alleviated. I was taught to shoot until the threat was neutralized. I've been through a lot of firearms training courses, even some of the introductory police training through DPSST instructors. So everybody stopped and or got back. The threats had been neutralized at that point, so I reholstered. And I continued retreating up the block. A few other people got in my face, but it did not reach the level of physical threat. The police finally show up. I'm the one arrested. I'm the one in handcuffs, brought into jail. I'm the one up on multiple charges. The violent thugs who started the entire thing, they're considered the innocent victims. So I show up for my arraignment the next day because I was initially charged with only 2 misdemeanors. I show up for the arraignment, and this deputy district attorney by the name of Kate Molina, she pulls out this phony police report that I didn't even know existed, that this guy who I hardly even know, who was harassing me at an event about a month prior, he files this report claiming that I'm sending him race-based, threatening text messages and voicemails, and that I'm driving by his house with my hand in the shape of a gun. I barely know who this guy is. I'm a video news journalist. I don't go around harassing people. The night that he's claiming that I drove by his house and pointed my hand in the shape of a gun towards him, I was caring for not 1 but 2 cats that needed medical attention. So she uses this phony police report to now tack on felony charges, toss me in jail with a $250,000 bail. My video is immediately seized by police so the public can't see it. So in this phony police report, this guy John Slaughter is his name. He's making all these allegations that I have ties to these white supremacist groups in the area. So Kate Molina is reading this out loud in open court as if it were fact to the judge with TV cameras rolling. Guess what the news is reporting that night? Violent white supremacist guy who harasses black people and the people at the Orlando Vigil. What? So fortunately, there were enough people who were just outraged about what had happened to me. We were able to raise funds, Oregon Firearms Federation in particular, big help in that. I was able to get bailed out. I was able to now sort of fight my own thing, but now I'm on pretrial release. The pretrial release officer, Chelsea Fanua, she banned me from talking to the media, posting videos, going on Twitter, going to political events, and blogging. So the only narrative that's out there is what mainstream news is reporting and what people are saying on the internet, on Facebook. We all know if somebody says it on the internet, it's true, right? So it eventually comes time for trial. Of course, my actions were in self-defense, so I'm citing self-defense all through the trial. These guys are on the witness stand admitting, oh yeah, we saw Strickland in the crowd, we don't like him, so we organized this big thing to go and confront him and physically force him out of the crowd. They're admitting all this on the witness stand. Now, we had to do what's called a bench trial instead of a jury trial because the jury had been tainted. One of the things that we had motioned for was a change of venue to move it to a different county because everybody had heard these untrue things about me that were going around in the media. Judge Schneider motion for change of venue. So we couldn't trust the jury. They had all heard about the trial, or about what had happened. They had all read about me in the news. Some of them were even at the freaking protest. One of them was a volunteer for another organization that I've done investigative reports on. So this jury is completely tainted and biased. So we had to do the bench trial. The judge found me guilty of 21 counts 10 felonies of unlawful use of a weapon, 10 misdemeanors of menacing, and 1 misdemeanor of disorderly conduct. Now they're claiming that there's all these victims. Only 2 of these people ever came forward. One of which is the big guy who started the entire thing with the lengthy criminal history. The other guy is the one who I've seen at several events, who I have on film, causing trouble. And he was the one who was circling around my back to distract my attention to my right. Those are the only 2 people who were ever identified and never came forward. How can they claim there's 10 victims when I never had the right to face any of them? So of course, we're now in the appeals process. And in the appeals process, we're not going back and re-arguing the facts of the case. We're bringing up things that the judge ruled during the trial that were admitted or ruled not to be admissible that we felt we were wronged on. Change of venue is one of them. The fact that only 2 of the 10 victims ever came forward is another. The judge allowed an ambush witness to come up after both sides had rested. An ambush witness, we had no idea who this guy was. He was brought up as the expert witness for the state. We had no idea who he was. Ryan Rasmussen is his name, Gresham Police. He's their firearms and use of force trainer. He was on the witness stand saying that he can only testify as to what police officers are doing because he has no experience or training in the civilian world. So he's up there saying that police officers are not trained to draw their guns, not shoot, and then reholster. Now, I personally witnessed that several times. And so they're very, very vague on what I should have done. No one has properly explained what somebody should do when they're attacked by a mob of thugs in the street. So, as much as people look at my case as a Second Amendment case for the firearm, I look at it equally, if not more so, as a First Amendment case. Does a person have the right to be in a public area, filming a public event, as part of their job, in exercise of their freedom of the press? The judge says no, a mob of thugs have the right to use physical force to prevent someone from doing that. That puts everybody at risk in the state for mob violence. If someone's standing on the street doing something else other than First Amendment, you have less standing to even be there. So this essentially legalizes mob violence. This means, if you take the similar circumstances and apply them to another thing, KKK members with masks over their faces have the legal right and lawful authority to attack people of color on the street. And that's not a crime according to the judge. It's a crime if the black dude who they're targeting tries to fight back. Then the black dude is the one brought in on charges. And the KKK guys, they're the innocent victims. So as I've been going around giving speeches about this, I attempted to give a speech at Portland State University about 2 months ago. You're about to give me the hook, aren't you?
Continue that.
Okay. So many of you saw this on the news because it made national news. I'm there trying to give the speech. One of the guys out front with the man bun out there, he shows up clanging his cowbell for an hour, screaming and yelling obscenities at everybody in the room. That made national news. The police, of course, refusing to intervene, saying that it somehow does not meet the statutory definition of harassment or disorderly conduct, even though it clearly does. So the guy eventually left after an hour or so, and I was able to give an abbreviated version of the speech. So yeah, I stand for the rights of free speech. Freedom of the press is my big thing. So as it stands now, I am banned from filming political events, banned from filming anything at the colleges. If somebody tells me to leave an area, I have to leave. If I were to have filmed my own speech at Portland State University, I'd go to prison because that'd be a violation of my probation. So yeah, this is plodding through the appeals process. Robert Barnes is my attorney, whom many of you might be familiar with. He often appears on news channels and whatnot. And I have no intention of giving up this fight until this case is overturned at whatever level it needs to be overturned at. Mob violence should not be legal on the streets. It is now. Everybody's complaining about the brawls that break out during Joey Gibson's events. Well, all you radical leftists, you encourage that. You encourage the legalization of mob violence in the streets. You cheered it on when it happened to me. Now it's happening to you and you want to complain about it. That's not how the law works. It's supposed to see things all ways. So I'll shut up now and we'll get on to the next person. Thank you guys. Thank you, Casey, for having me. YouTube.com/LaughingAtLiberals is my YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter @LaughingAtLibs.
Give it up again for Michael Strickland. We forgot our cowbells. L. Gruber is going to talk about, I don't have the whole thing, it's unequal treatment. Come on up here. All right. What is it?
Unequal enforcement of the law against Christians and conservatives.
Yeah, Diane's an attorney. Let's give it up for Diane L. Gruber.
Okay. I asked Casey I'm so glad that Michael Strickland came, and I asked Casey to allow me to follow Michael Strickland. Because Michael Strickland is the living proof. He makes my point. Unequal enforcement of the law against conservatives and Christians. He makes my point. He's my exhibit 1.
He's my co-host.
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody tells me I talk too loud.
Here, you got papers there. Turn this and do this.
I won't report you.
Pardon me?
He was suggesting that thing. I won't report
Thank
you.
you. Okay, I practiced law in Oregon for 33 years. I finally came out of the conservative closet on January 26, 2017. Because I was in an event with a bunch of female attorneys, and they were screaming, bawling, etc. over Trump's win and Hillary's loss, acting like little toddlers, temper tantrums. And one of the things that troubled me the most was they refused to admit that Trump voters were fellow Americans. They all claimed that they didn't know a Trump voter. They had no idea. They're sitting there going, do you know somebody that you ever? Well, no, do you? Well, maybe I can find one. My brother-in-law maybe did. You know, I mean, come on. Clackamas County, 79,000 people voted for Trump, and 90,000 voted for Hillary. Oops, I'm getting it backwards. So come on, how hard would it be to go find a Trump voter? They didn't want it. They didn't care. They wanted to pretend like they didn't exist. Okay. Now that we know that Obama Department of Justice and the Obama FBI weaponized its massive resources against candidate Trump and President Trump, let's turn to the corruption in the Oregon's Department of Justice and Oregon's District Attorney's offices. Again, Michael Strickland, exhibit number 1. A district attorney has a great deal of power and authority. He or she can pick and choose who to prosecute, what to prosecute for. Unequal enforcement of the law is wrong, regardless of the law or the person involved. Your neighbor should not be prosecuted for the exact same crime that the DA ignored last year when you did it. I am describing here the grossly unequal treatment of 2 Portland journalists by the Multnomah County DA, Rod Underhill. Michael touched on it briefly. In March 2015, about 15 months before his persecution began, left-wing video journalist Sky Fitzgerald met with Michael, who just spoke with you. This event occurred 15 months before Michael's persecution. Michael had long been a thorn in the side of Portland's mayor, city council, the loony liberals that are in the process of destroying the city of roses, and the thugs who ride in downtown Portland. Okay. A colleague arranged for the 2 journalists to meet at a Gresham restaurant to discuss Fitzgerald's gun control documentary. You guessed it, the liberal could not win the argument using facts and logic, so he resorted to violence when Michael asked him, quote, "Why are you lying to people in your documentary?" unquote. With that, Fitzgerald grabbed both of Michael's cameras, 2 of Michael's cameras. They scuffled outside the restaurant, inside the restaurant, so the manager asked them to leave. Fitzgerald walks out of the restaurant with Michael behind him calling 911. The 2 wound up in the parking lot where Fitzgerald charged at Michael, pinning him against a car. He then picked Michael up and slammed him to the pavement where he jumped on him with all his weight. Fitzgerald was then seen putting Michael's cameras in his car and driving away. Michael's arm was broken in 3 places and his shoulder was dislocated. His arm was so badly damaged that it required multiple surgeries, 13 screws, and hospitalization. At the time, the doctor wasn't sure if he would get, that full use of his arm would return.
We never did regain full use.
Uh-oh, okay. I thought you were okay.
No.
I'm sorry. Okay, with Michael's camera and the colleague's camera, almost the entire beating and theft were caught on tape. Gresham police cited Fitzgerald for the assault and theft, but the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office refused to prosecute the liberal journalist. The office is headed by Rod Underhill, the same man who persecuted him a year later. He's a liberal activist pretending to be looking out for the people of Oregon. After all, conservatives deserve whatever liberals do to them, right? Don't you all agree with that? Oh, there's something wrong with you guys. As Michael just told you, a year later, the same district attorney, Rod Underhill, made Michael the victim, or made this victim of the previous assault, went after him like a raging bull. District attorneys who identify as liberals see their mission not so much to enforce the law, but to enforce the law with a heavy hand against Christians and conservatives, or anybody that the left labels right-wing. And they apply the law lightly against known liberals, especially if those liberals are breaking the name in the law, are breaking the law in the name of liberalism. The rule of law is being replaced by the rule of liberalism in Oregon. Contrary to popular belief, attorneys are human beings. Some of us. Like all of you in the audience, each attorney brings to his job his own unique personal experiences, biases, and viewpoints. Over the last 30 years, the Oregon Department of Justice and too many of the 36 district attorneys' offices have been taken over by liberal activists. As liberals gain more and more power, they hired more and as Democrats gained more and more power in Oregon, they hired more and more liberal activists to fill important positions within the government, positions of power over you and me. This time, this includes the Oregon Department of Justice, where liberals can do the most damage to Christians and conservatives. Currently, there are 2 kinds of government attorneys. The liberal activists who use the law to push their social and political agenda, and level-headed attorneys who just want to apply the law fairly. There are more and more of the former and fewer and fewer of the latter, because the Oregon Department of Justice is only interested in hiring liberal activists, and too many of the district attorneys' offices are just as partisan. Remember the 2004 election? I guess everybody are okay. That's when the Senator John Forbes Kerry was challenging George W. Bush for the presidency. Kerry highlighted his 4 months, whoopie-doo, in the Navy during Vietnam because Bush had not been to Vietnam. The men who served with Kerry during the Vietnam War knew he was lying, and they started contacting each other after all those many years. These veterans finally decided that they needed to set the record straight about the claims of this Democratic candidate for president. So they put together a public service ad wherein several men who had served with Kerry talked about what really happened during Kerry's time in Vietnam. By the way, I love this. I gave a small donation to them, because everyday non-political Americans freely voicing their concerns about a candidate that they know. Now, I mean, this is democracy at its very best. Speaking truth to power, as the Democrats are so fond of saying. One such Vietnam veteran happened to be a long-serving deputy district attorney in Clackamas County. After he's seen on TV criticizing an important Democrat, the DA's office started combing through his personnel files. They found a 10-year-old violation of personnel rules and suspended him. Meanwhile, the Oregon State Bar, which is owned by liberals, I don't know if you know this, but I mean real loony liberals, not just middle-of-the-road liberals. They opened some investigations to see if they could find a way to disbar him. With a suspend his license, and with a suspended license, then he'd lose his job as deputy district attorney. They even delved into his sex life and made it public. In the long run, this veteran got his job back, and the bar could find no dirt on him, so they closed their investigations. But the message was clear. They weren't targeting him so much as they were targeting every other attorney in Oregon. If you're going to practice law in Oregon and want to keep your license, you do not have freedom of speech rights to criticize a Democrat. Period. Diversity of thought is not allowed among Oregon attorneys. That's why I was in the closet for so long, because I want to keep my license. Back in the good old days, back in the Old West, if you wanted to destroy somebody's livelihood, you burned down his barn, you burned his crops, you killed his cattle. Today, you whine to the state of Oregon and they do it for you. All of you are aware of Sweet Cakes Bakery in Gresham. Okay. This small business was intentionally targeted by attorneys and others working for the state of Oregon as an example to others, as an example to you, to prevent you from fully exercising your freedom of religion.
Amen.
Even if Sweet Cakes wins their pending appeal, the punishment was in the process. Aaron and Melissa Klein's punishment was 6+ years of torture and expense they endured, as well as the loss of their business. They lost big time, big time. A few Oregonians can compete. Are you giving me the hook there, Stacy? Casey? Oh my goodness. I timed this before, I read it at home. Oh well. Okay, very few Oregonians can compete with the resources of the state when they come after you. What I find so fascinating about this, the lesbian couple did not just stumble into Sweet Cakes one day. They even admitted buying there before, and they knew that the owners were committed Christians. Sweet Cakes was probably targeted by some militant, hate-filled gay lobby who recruited this couple to go into the bakery. Okay, now to the conclusion. I'm just about ready there, Casey. Okay, the militant left has made a lot of progress toward their goal to destroy American society and the rule of law by terrorizing the majority. One bakery, one Christian, one attorney, one judge, one veteran, one journalist at a time. I was going to talk about Judge Vance Day, but Casey won't let me. Okay. After all of the speeches are given, come over to the front desk and pick up your copy of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Hillsdale College sent me 600 of these for free. Woo! Over the last 2 years. Don't listen to what liberals claim is in this. Read it for yourself. It's not that difficult. A little bit stilted, old-fashioned, of course, but come on. Conservatives are smart enough to read this. I will leave you with one remark that was allegedly made by Joan of Arc in the 15th century France. As she stood before the judges who condemned her to be burned at the stake, she said to them, "You are not fit to judge me." I humbly suggest that liberals are not fit to judge Christians and conservatives. Thank you. Red, white, and blue.
All right, let's look up again for Diana. Has anyone in here seen that video where it's the truth about AOC, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez? Anybody seen that? And then like in that video, they talk about the Justice Democrats and Cenk Uygur, who pays for them, and they hired AOC, the actress, and everything. The guy who made that video, which has millions of views, Mr. Reagan, is joining us here from Los Angeles. So let's give it up for Mr. Reagan right now.
From Los Angeles, partly to be here, and partly for my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. My dad over there. Because I grew up right here in Salem, Oregon. The best town in America, except for those people outside. I was really hoping they were for me, but they had no idea who I was. Okay. Leftists don't watch conservative videos on YouTube typically. All right. I want to teach you all very quickly. I'm going to try to make this as short as I can. I'm going to teach you all how to win any argument ever. You will, from this point on, you will never lose an argument. Okay? Simple concept. Very, very simple concept. Never, never, never argue to win an argument. Always argue to get to the truth. Okay? Always look for the truth in an argument, right? The guy that you're arguing with is almost always going to be right about a few things, right? Agree with that guy. Be kind to that person. Respect their perspective. Even if they're completely crazy, be like, okay, look for the reasons why you agree. You don't always have to take the conflicting position. Because if you're looking for truth, and they're trying to look for the conflicting position, they're always going to get further away from the truth. You're always going to get closer to it. Eventually, you're going to win the argument. And in fact, you're going to look generous, because you're inviting them to search for truth with you. So that's a technique I developed years ago that has always served me relatively well. Now, my definition of government is that government is really there to protect the vulnerable, right? We have a military to stop nuclear attack. We're all vulnerable to that, right? We have laws to protect us from getting ripped off. We have all kinds of rules in government to keep us safe. We're all vulnerable,
What's the leftists doing the ripping off and they get away with it?
They get away with it, right? And that's government kind of not really working, right? So we've got problem solvers on both sides, right? We've got a lot of good problem solvers on the left. We've got a bunch of good problem solvers on the right. Why don't we put them in a room and say, guys, work it out. Figure it out, solve all of our problems for us, because we're all wanting to make a better country, right? We want to make a better country. They'll never agree on anything. They'll never come to the conclusions they need to come to in order for us to better ourselves in the nation. Why, as a nation? Why is this? Why can they never agree? It's because they're trying to solve different problems, right? The left has a set of problems they think are detrimental to the country, and the right has a set of problems that they want to fix and make the country better. So I would propose to you, now I'm a conservative, all right? I'm not middle ground, I'm not a moderate, I'm not, kind of leftist. I'm a strong conservative, so people are going to disagree with me, for sure, right? And I would propose this, which you're probably going to hate, some of you are going to hate, but I would suggest that even if you're a little bit left, you're wrong about everything. and that is an extreme statement, let me explain. The reason's because you're solving the wrong problems. Okay? There is this idea, these fundamental ideas on the left, which is that black people are oppressed, that women are oppressed, that gays are oppressed, immigrants, there's all kinds of oppressor narratives, right? Republicans are racist. We gotta stop the horrible racism that's occurring in our country that's keeping you down, man. If you're black and your life is pretty good, it could be way better, but for the horrible racists, we've got to go stop the horrible racists, right? That's what they keep telling me. It's sort of like a 1990s infomercial, right? You thought, I can make an omelet, no problem. I crack a couple eggs, I put it in. They say, no. Why are you cracking those eggs by hand? Look at the mess you made. You see somebody cracking a few eggs, it's like eggs everywhere. They're like, has this ever happened to you? Buy this egg cracker. So you buy the egg cracker, you're like, this damn thing doesn't even work. So then now you got this plastic junk in your house, right? You can't even, you're like, you know what? That's actually not that bad. Actually, that worked fine for years. I don't know why I thought that was a problem in the first place. But they manufacture these problems for everybody. They say, look, you guys are living, under oppression and we need to fix it. And they convince people that, your lives are terrible. Your lives are terrible because of these oppressive people. But they've got a problem now. They've got a problem now, which is the internet. The internet is screwing them up. Well, I'm not really good at holding a microphone, apparently. Because they're not used to their ideas being scrutinized. They're used to proposing these horrible, problems, and people just going, really? Oh, that's a horrible problem. I'm for you. I'm against racism. I'm with you. I want to fix the environment. I'm with you. And they're not used to people scrutinizing them, but we can all scrutinize them now. We just got to do a little research on the internet. That's all. We got lots of various ideas. So what do you do if your ideas are being attacked and you're not super confident about them? Well, you've got to protect these ideas. So now we have these companies called YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, and they'll take people like me and they'll say, you know what? We should not be listening to this person. We might not kick him off, maybe we'll kick him off, but maybe we'll just demonetize him, or we'll restrict his distribution. Only your subscribers can actually see what you're saying. We don't want to share this with the rest of the world because this is fascist, or whatever word they decide to use. So now, but it's worse than they think. It's way worse than they think. They think they're protecting their ideas, right? But what's really happening is way worse for them because they have a crisis right now. There are a lot of people on the left that are recognizing the hypocrisy of the left, right? And what's happening is it's not really to do with us so much. I mean, the YouTubers and the people trying to speak truth and stuff like that. It has a lot to do with leftists themselves. They're getting into these smaller and smaller circles, and they're elbowing out people who slightly disagree with them. I got a buddy in LA named, well, I'm not going to tell you his name because he'll kill me, because he's an actor, right? And he's a leftist, and he's a Mexican, and he's gay. And my gay Mexican actor buddy has a good friend who is a strong feminist, right? She's a straight white woman, but she's a strong leftist, she's a strong feminist. She's part of this feminist group. They kicked her out of the group. Why'd they kick her out of the group? Because she was not a woman of color. She can't possibly understand. I think I just hit my mic. She can't possibly.
I've ever had to do because I'm shy. Don't really like speaking in front of people. It was a huge thing for me. But I get up there and I start speaking, and within the first minute or 2 minutes, I've never had a feeling like that in my entire life. I said, this is it. This is part of my identity. This is how God built me, and this is what God has for me in the future. Okay? Now here's the crazy thing. I want you guys to think about this. This is the thing about destiny is it's out there, but it's not forced on you. God has a plan for you, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And at that moment in time, before my speech, my life could have gone in two separate directions. And I am absolutely convinced that if I would have ran and didn't give that first speech, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be here anywhere doing anything that I believe in, doing things that I dream of. And that's the thing that I want people to begin to understand is that this country is soft. It is weak. It has been done on purpose. It is so soft. We don't have men anymore. We have boys. We have half the people out there who claim to be gay are just pretending. Okay? We have a huge problem in this country. And the way that the left or anyone trying to increase the size of our government, because people on the right do it too, okay? Anybody who's doing that, they do it by thriving off of your fear, by you guys keeping your mouth shut, okay? Racist, Nazi. There's so many people who are simply afraid to like a comment on my Facebook, because if you're one of these new people that start commenting or liking on my Facebook, they just start getting all these messages from all these people, like berating them, but it's all fake. None of it's real. Like, who cares if you get a random message from a person who calls you racist when you know in your heart you don't have a racist bone in your body? This is one of the things that... They have that sign in the back that says clap. So, this is the thing that I realized when I first started looking into Antifa and seeing what they're about and all that stuff. And Antifa is just a bunch of little punks, okay? So I don't want to give too much attention, but it's the people who are pulling the strings above them. And it's the silence from the left that's really frustrating. How annoying is it to you that you don't hear people on the left speaking out against Antifa? How is that even possible? So in their silence, they partner with them, so let's use them against them, okay? Until the left speaks out, until the politicians, until moderate liberals, moderate Democrats, or whatever, until they speak out against them, we're going to partner them together, and they can go burn it down with Antifa, because we'll continue to expose that relationship, okay? But one of the things I realized that they do from the very beginning, a lot of the work that they do, Antifa or people on the left, a lot of it's behind the scenes and people don't see it, okay? I had a radio ad up for a rally that I was doing, a Second Amendment rally on 101.1. I didn't think it was a big deal, put down $2,000. They had a meltdown. The left had a meltdown. They flooded the radio station with phone calls. They started calling the advertisers. They started calling everyone. The company called me and said, Joey, we gotta pull out. We can't do it anymore. We can't do it. They said, we've never seen anything like it, okay? This is the stuff they do behind the scenes. They're so afraid of me simply having a voice, me having a message, and bringing new people in, that they're literally gonna spend hours a day calling different advertisers, okay? Calling the radio station and making threats. These are the things that happen behind the scenes. There are so many voices that you guys don't know about that started to rise up in the movement, okay? They started to rise up in the Portland area. They start to get some followers, they start to really impact people, and then they disappear, like that, gone. The reason why is because they get threats. They find out where they live. They'll camp outside their house. They will send them pictures of their family to their house and threaten them, okay? So my thing that I want each and every single one of you here to consider is how much are you allowing that fear to stop you from standing up for what you believe in? It's a sincere question that you have to ask yourselves. Because fear comes in many directions. One thing, a lot of people are afraid to fail, okay? A lot of people are afraid to fail. The way you look, and especially today in politics, people make fun of you for every single thing. People make fun of me when I succeed, okay? When I fail, they make fun of me 1,000 times more. I want you to ask yourself, are you afraid to put yourself out there because you're afraid to fail? You have to find out what you're afraid of. Find out what that is, identify why you're afraid of that. And usually that's in my opinion, that's a signal of somewhere where you need to go. Because if the enemy's trying to make you afraid of something, right? That means he's afraid of you going in that direction. So every single time you challenge your fear, you challenge it, you take that step, okay? You take that courageous step and you're gonna realize, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. And you're gonna build more courage. You're gonna build more faith in God so that you'll be able to take another step, okay? And then the next, and then the next. That's the thing, take that first step and you will find things that you never even believed could even be possible, could even be true. I would say most people in this country are asleep or they're awake and they're not doing anything about it. What we need is we need about 10% of the population, maybe even less, okay? Right now it's like 0.0001. We need like 10% of the population who's willing to do whatever it takes to change this country. Willing to put everything out there, no matter what the cost, no matter what. Do we have too many people like Strickland, Andy No, and some other people who are carrying the weight for everybody else, but they're seriously crying for the country to wake up. I've seen Andy, when he goes into those crowds, when he goes and records the way that he's treated simply for being a journalist, he's crying out for the world to wake up and to do something. Why else would he be willing to put his life on the line? And listen, this guy's not like a manly dude, okay? He's very feminine, he's gay, whatever. Speaks very soft, but he's willing to do it, okay? How much time do I have? I don't know.
Oh, you can, I mean, I have another half hour, but for Q&A. So, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll finish off with this. Well, the last thing that I would like to say, I understand my reputation isn't the best, that's okay. But these days, if you want to have a voice, okay, not just a voice inside a church, hiding in the church as a pastor or preacher, if you want to be someone out in the open, talking about God, talking about freedom, they're going to absolutely destroy their reputation, but I'm okay with it. I am totally fine with it. Because I did what I believed in. And this is the thing. We have this communist movement. I'll finish this. We have this communist movement, okay? And it hates God. And it hates freedom. Hates it. You gotta ask yourself why. Because if you believe in God, you believe in freedom, you don't need a government. You don't need a elitist above you telling you what to do, how to act, what to wear. That's why they're trying to destroy that in this country. And listen, it can't just be politics without God. I am convinced that the only way that we can save this country is through God. That's it. That's it. So I'm going to ask you guys today to think about this. Think about how much of a commitment have you made to change this country? How much of a commitment have you made? And is it enough? Okay? And if you decide that you need to make an actual commitment to yourself and to God to change this country, okay? All you have to do is take your next step, okay? Find out what it is, find out what your identity is, how God built you. Some people are speakers, some people, are not, are journalists. There's all kinds of things. Find out a direction to go in that direction, and all you have to do is not quit. That's it. Just keep going. And you will find something. You will be amazed. Every single time you get knocked down, you get your ass up and you keep going forward. It doesn't matter if you're by yourself or you're with hundreds of people, okay? Put your faith in God. If you put your faith in God, you will have the strength to have a voice even standing alone. With the whole world around you making fun of you, you just keep going forward. Stay the course, okay? Guys, thank you.
Again for Joey Gibson. Thank you. Okay, I actually have this for 30 more minutes. So I'd like to invite all the speakers to come up here and we'll do a Q&A. So does anyone have any questions, first off? Anybody? Oh, okay. Do you want to come up here? And just right here. And I'll give you the mic.
Oh, I don't need a mic.
Doesn't sound like you need a mic.
I guess my question would be for Canada Nations. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Thomas Jefferson and author of the Declaration of Independence, true genius. Fairly familiar with his conflict with Barbary pirates and the voyage of the Intrepid. And I can assure you that in the treaty that he signed, ratified by Congress, a legal document, it clearly states the United States is not Christian nation. And I was wondering if you continue to misrepresent the United States and exploit Thomas Jefferson for your own political purposes.
Well, first, I would disagree with your assessment of the United States. I think that the particular vein that I'm talking about is the predominant culture, people, and background of people who have lived here and crafted the country. And so I'm not talking about an official document. I'm talking that says we are a Christian nation. I'm talking about culturally, which was that was the point of the speech. And then I also would say that those who wrote the Constitution, wrote the Declaration of Independence, they very specifically said God was involved in the creation of this country, and that is a Christian God. And so I would not say, I won't disagree with you on that document, but I will say we are a Christian country based off of what I was talking about culturally, the people who have lived here, the religion that's been practiced here, the things that have been built in this country are largely pointed to a Christian religion. So,
Joey, we also have another Joey that got a view on that.
I only just have a quick follow-up. Just like Thomas Jefferson himself was not a Christian. Sure. He was one of these fathers. When he spoke of God, he was a deist. Oh. And he actually took the oath of office on the Quran.
I know, but the Quran that he took that oath of office on, it was not to swear any kind of oath to Islam. And we saw the representative out there who just used that and misrepresented our forefathers about... I didn't say you said that. This lady misrepresented his intention on why he had a Quran. He used that to study the enemy. He did not use that to dictate anything in this country other than how to deal with radical Islam and the Barbary pirates. That's why he had a Quran. Woo!
Well, we're gonna move on to another question too. Joey, did you have something to say about that?
Oh yeah, just quickly on that, because I get that question a lot about, separation of church and state. I think what's important to understand that as Christians, or most, if you follow the teachings of Jesus, you never force your beliefs on other people, especially through the government. And I don't want the government to be forcing morals on the people, because then that's not even morals, right? Morals come from free choice and free will. And I think that absolutely a lot of the forefathers were very spiritual. In fact, if they weren't spiritual, they would have never even had the courage to go up against the most powerful military in the world. And I think that being able to promote people to be spiritual, to find that courage, that will do a lot to change this country. But in no means should our government force it upon anybody.
All right, yes, come on up here.
Hi guys, I'm Media Shadow, an aspiring Portland YouTuber. We have a semi-crowded theater here, and I thought since this is a free speech event, I would invite any of you who would like to yell fire.
Fire Kate.
You're one of the comedians to do it.
Yeah,
fire Kate Brown.
Fire.
There we go.
I find that offensive.
I've got a question for the two comedians. Are you guys at all concerned by appearing at this event that it's going to harm your reputation in the entertainment industry in Portland?
Alex, you want to start this one or should I?
My act has done a sufficient job of that. No, here's the thing about that. First of all, this can only do me good because nobody's heard of me and it gets my name out there. Secondly, pardon me, and I don't mean to offend the baby, thank you for taking him out, but I couldn't give fuck one what Portland thinks of me.
Hell yeah.
I second that.
Yeah.
I second that.
Are there any other questions?
Can I answer that real quick?
Huh?
Can I answer the question real quick? Yeah. So basically, I did get, I had that exact same thing happen. As you know, I work for some pretty public people, and I got protested at an event because apparently I am a quote-unquote rape comic. And would you like to hear the joke? It's clean, but I went to a Portland open mic, and I looked at these little hipster kids, a lot of the people like outside, all these really woke people, and I pointed at this guy and I said, you know better than I do that bell hooks quotes are the new date rape drug. Now, what that joke is saying is that men that pretend to be feminists and men that pretend to be woke are often the most dangerous mofos of the scene. Wasn't that funny of a joke, but I made a point. Point is, a guy, I won't say his name, it's Andy McDonald, but I won't say it again. And I called him Handy McFarland. It was a half joke. Okay? I got booted from Portland. Can anyone in this room guess what happened 1 year, 6 days later, and who got arrested and charged and convicted with sexual assault of no less than 3 women? Andy McFucking-Donald. So, I am expecting this event to lose me about 30 Facebook friends, none of whom come to my shows, none of whom buy my shit, none of whom support me. And then in about 3 to 4 months, when one of them gets outed for being a rapist, one of them gets outed for being a child porn seller, everybody out there has something to hide. No one on the stage does. I disagree with 90% of everyone in here, but I have no respect for anyone that doesn't want to come in here and have this discussion. So if you're in here and you're part of the Portland entertainment scene, I can be found at Tales to the DJ booth. I also started a local publication called Saucetown, which will probably be protested ASAMFP. Thank you.
All right, so there were a couple more questions right here.
Well, getting my story out there on my YouTube channel, again, youtube.com/laughingatliberals. I've done a number of videos where I've analyzed the footage of the actual incident. I've analyzed a lot of the shenanigans that have happened since then, taking their own words that they've said on the witness stand and other things like that, pointing out a bunch of the lies that they've said. I've done a few of my own first-person videos, finally, where I'm explaining things. So helping get the message out, I think, is big right now. We're all up to speed on the legal bills for the most part. I did end up starting my own legal fund, stricklandlegalfund@gmail.com on PayPal. Because what we're trying to do now is we're trying to do some public records requests. And I need to be a little coy on what else I say about that. Because we feel that they really hid a bunch of information about me in the case. And those all cost money. And now they've denied us the record requests after charging us money for them. So now we've had to hire another attorney to now bring that up to another level to where we have to actually go through legal processes to get my own records about me that they've hidden from me. And so that's really the point we're at right now. Personal life-wise, I mean, my whole life is completely destroyed. You know, it's hard to find work, hard to find a place to live because everybody does a background check. Do a background check on me, comes back as 10 felonies of unlawful use of a weapon that fall under aggravated assault. Who's going to rent to me? So, you know, that sort of thing is what I'm fighting in the interim. Life has slowly come back together for me as time has gone on. Yeah, I don't know, help get the word out there. And yeah, I like I said, I never intended to be a public figure. So I'm new to the self-promotion thing. I don't like begging for money. You know, I feel
it's got legal fees though, right?
Yeah. You know, and not a penny of it goes to me. It all goes to the attorneys and to the government entities that are charging us money for the records. So again, stricklandlegalfund@gmail.com.
All right, Tyler, you want to come over here?
Yeah.
So I first want to thank you all for coming.
I want to thank you all for coming. Some of you I've really looked up to for a very long time. And I've had this, it was crazy, not too long ago, I thought, what if I got to meet Joey Gibson? What if I got to meet Mr. Reagan? Joey Gibson said something that really stuck with me. He said, if it scares you, it's probably something you should do. So that's why I came up. Just in the past 24 hours, I thought, what if there's a way we could fix this media bias? What if we got together some like-minded conservatives that are, you know, higher up, you know, and we found out just maybe possibly if there's a way we could buy YouTube. I know that sounds crazy, but if we could buy YouTube, then we wouldn't have to worry about getting deplatformed. We would have our voice, and we would all own it equally. You know, it would just be an open platform, as it was advertised years ago when YouTube started getting big. And we can do this with other platforms if it really worked. We could start doing it with radio stations. We could start doing it with other stuff. So I guess it was just a thought I wanted to leave with you guys, and thank you so much.
I can comment a little bit on that regarding like big money bundlers for conservative causes and whatnot. The main difference that I've noticed following politics over the last, hard to believe it's been 9 years, is people on the quote-unquote conservative side, the Republican side, especially when it comes to like the campaign managers, they don't care about actually winning anything. All they care about is they're getting their share of the money that comes in. And so when you bring up your thing, yeah, it's a great idea. I don't think Sheldon Adelson's going to put out any money for it, because what does he have to gain directly from it? Very little. And I just put out Sheldon Adelson as an example. You could substitute Koch brothers or the Walton family or whatever. They need to get something out of it in order for their money to pay off. The left, they care less about the money and more about winning. I look at these leftist organizations, you know, they spend their money on direct boots on the ground out there winning, whereas the money on the right only cares about getting money from the right.
Can I throw something out there? BitChute, and shoot spelled like parachute, so BITCHUTE is basically a decentralized YouTube. So it doesn't have, you're going for like the stars, just shoot for a cloud. Tell people to go to BitChute. You can upload anything there that's not like illegal. It would literally have to be, you know, beyond the realm of anything anyone here would want to see. Your opinion will not be taken down, and it's decentralized, so the same people that brought you Bitcoin and blockchain and all that, there's no way you can take it down. There's no Mark Zuckerberg or whatever the YouTube guy is. Anyone can upload to BitChute. It's not popular, but it works, and I recommend you start there.
Right.
All right.
That's my idea was that, you know, for example, Stephen Crowder is very big in the conservative movement. And I know he's really worried about, you know, being deplatformed. He's got his lawyer, and it's much money, he's got this mug club and a lot of income coming in. What if instead he was able to dedicate that money into somehow, just figure out what number would, the company that owns YouTube, I believe it's Google.
I would say instead of trying to buy YouTube, try to start your own thing.
Yeah.
How many billionaires do you know that are going to get money to it?
And I might try to do that in the future, do a Kickstarter, see if everyone up here will help me, and
Kickstarter will take it
raise
down.
some money.
Kickstarter will take it down.
And
Indiegogo will take it down.
Who's gonna let me do
will
it?
take it down.
Let me do it. I got a really good question. Oh, hold on. What? All right, go ahead. I know you were waiting, and then I got this gentleman over here right after you.
Well, I created People's Place, peoplesplace.us. Still working out some of the bugs to replace Facebook. It's a kind of a no-frills Facebook kind of a thing, and for that kind of idea. So we're working out some of the bugs, but it is live, peoplesplace.us. But what's happening with Strickland is something that can affect anyone or all of us in this very room. It has impacted me 20 years ago, and it's one intention only, and that is to silence us. And we are finding out that the party responsible for this action is being called out in Washington, and they are guilty here in Oregon. We're talking spying, treason, malicious prosecution, all of it. And they're guilty of it. And any one of us here, Vance Day, very good man. Bill Sizemore, very good man. Lon Maybon, they've done it. They've used a judicial, either civil or criminal system against you, or both. And it's something that we need to address. We need to get it figured out. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the reasons why the legal profession, the people that work for the district attorney's office and the Oregon Department of Justice, they know very well that even if in the end, the very end, you win your appeal, they've destroyed you anyway. So the punishment is in the process. They've destroyed your reputation, they've taken away your business, they cost you tons of attorney fees, and they're not ashamed. What they did to Vance Day, for example, that was based on the one word of one man with brain damage, and he was alcoholic. You never can get a successful prosecution without evidence to back up one person's word. And the reason they dismissed it the day after they started impaneling the jury is because that one witness refused to testify. They never had a chance of convicting Vance Day. All they wanted was to get him off the bench, get this Christian off the bench, and get him convicted of something if they could. And you know, he has not one black mark on his record with the Oregon State Bar. And let me tell you, when you practice 25 years in Oregon, that's hard to do. Every attorney that's practiced 25 years has at least one tiny black mark, unless you're a government attorney, and then you're safe.
I thought this gentleman's question was awesome, so let's listen to this.
I just want to commend you guys because you guys are actually saying something. Because our country does censor everything. I didn't agree with a couple of you guys, definitely. I definitely didn't agree, but now I know how you feel about things. So at least I'm seeing something, we're sharing something. My question is this: of all the people up here, everybody seems to think he's the guy everyone's protesting about. I just don't understand why they're protesting. Number one, what do you guys think is the main actual reason they're protesting you? Number one, and the other question is, if they're protesting and they want to say something, how come they're wearing masks?
Because it's LARPing and it's not protesting, they're role-playing. Protests were in Vietnam. Protests were when women couldn't vote. This shit outside is them dressing up as comic book characters because they don't like what I said to a friend on Facebook. If they had an actual protest, they would do what you did, come in here, the pair of cojones, and ask them. That's why. That's not a protest outside. This is a protest in here.
I'm gonna offer a couple of those people, like 3 or 4, the opportunity to come in if they choose to.
Hey, we got a guy right here that just came in. You want to speak, sir?
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah, there's two reasons why, give me 1 second, there's two reasons why they protest. Number one, there's people who lie, like Nancy Pelosi says, a white supremacist. And then there's other people who protest at the bottom because they actually believe it and they're too lazy to do their own research. And so there's a lot of deception going on. Like there's a lot of people, protesters I talk to, where they seriously believe that, like, for example, Jimmy Christian was a friend of mine. Or they believe that Jimmy Christian was a Trump supporter. He wasn't even a Trump supporter. He was a Bernie supporter. So, but we don't put that on people. And so I think, to answer your question, one of the biggest reasons is lies. Laziness, and then there's people who, like Rose City Antifa, on their page they say they're against capitalism, they're against racism. They can't motivate people to beat you up because you believe in capitalism, but they can motivate people to beat you up because you're racist. So they'll just lie and say racist, racist, racist. So that's a simple answer.
Well, I just want to say, this one guy we agree with the most.
I don't know what the format was. I, as you can see, I'm a fervent Bernie Sanders supporter, and I've been, and I have been. Wait, thank you. And I've been long before that was fashionable, just for what it's worth. I mean, I'm not well before 2016. But anyway, that all said, I don't have a problem with anybody here expressing any expression of any form of speech. Frankly, you could literally say anything to anybody, and that's not going to bother. In fact, I'm all for it. You know, it's if that changes into physical action, then of course you've committed a crime, right? And that goes.
The right doesn't do that. It's the left that does the violence.
I've seen both.
Oh no, not
really. I don't think that's.
The media has told you that.
Okay, well that's okay. That's fine. We've seen different videos then, I guess, right? But that's not even my question, by the way. I do have a question for Mr. Gibson. You're Joe Gibson, right? My understanding is you're opposed to quote-unquote socialism, right? Is that a fair statement? You're opposed to socialism and you're pro-capitalist. So that essentially true? I have a backup question to that. That's just, I want to make sure that we define some
I mean, high school socialism.
Backup question, that's the last question, and then we're wrapping.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is that a fair assessment? Okay.
We use a lot of socialism in this country right now, such as schools and high schools. But yeah, for the most part, I'm against socialism, and I'm against big government, and I'm against giving power to the elitists, yes.
Oh, okay. Fine. I just want to make sure that we're talking apples and apples here. What this guy is advocating for, including people like Alexander Cortez, I assume you're not a big fan, but I don't know that for sure, and other people that consider themselves democratic socialists, that would be me. We want a system set up on the template of a country like Norway. And my question to you is that we don't want Marxists, we don't want North Korea, we want a country like Norway. In fact, Bernie is actually to the right of most politicians' parties. So my question to you, Mr. Gibson, is what is your problem with the country of Norway?
I can't speak for Norway, I'll tell you this much, okay? Because I haven't studied Norway, so I can't answer that question, but I will tell you this. This is very simple for me, okay? When you, right now, to get more power, what you want, what Bernie supporters want, right? Like they have a problem with private sector, right? So they want more regulations, they want higher taxes, right? Here's the problem though. Isn't it fair to say that the government is owned by big corporations? So why the hell would you give more power to the government that's owned by big corporations? Hold on. Let me give an example. For example, okay, but hold on. How do you do regulations? Through the government, right? Here's the problem. Exactly. Amen. Listen. So the government that's owned by big corporations, take Obama for example. He came in after the crash, right? That during Bush, he came in and said he's going to regulate the big banks. That's what he said. He passed all kinds of regulations, but what it did is it helped the big banks. He gave trillions of dollars back to the big banks, right, who screwed over the American people. That's socialism, right? Give more power to the big corporations, and it held down, but hold on. But how do you get politicians who are bought and paid for for by big corporations to pass regulations that actually hold down big banks.
By ending Citizens United.
That won't do anything.
Are you real quick? How much did the Bernie Sanders shirt cost?
It's called corruption. You get money under the table.
Did you redistribute that shirt? Was that shirt given to you?
You're a nice guy, you're sincere, but you don't understand how corruption.
No, here's the problem. Here's the problem. You actually don't understand how it works. I will tell you. I'll tell you quickly. You think that Norway is a socialist paradise. You don't know anything about Norway. Is your problem? No, you don't know anything about Norway. Listen to me. Okay, that's great. Listen, they do not have a socialist country. They have a free capitalist country, free market system. This is you have your facts a little confused, okay? Now they hold on. Listen, they have strong social programs, strong welfare system, and they have really massive debates in those countries about reducing this social welfare problem because it's bankrupting the country. And they almost went, yes, well, because they have massive oil reserves. They have massive oil reserves, and then listen to me. Norway was only saved in the 90s when they tried socialism because of their oil reserves. They tried socialism and it almost bankrupted their country. I'm not lying. You can look into it. You can do the research. But listen. I love the fact that you think that I'm wrong and that you're willing to express that. There's no reason to have emotion about it. We can talk dispassionately because emotion taints the argument. You have to think about this dispassionately. You have to look at the facts. Okay. Now everybody here can look this up. The great thing about the internet and the great thing about these kind of debates is we can all go home, we can all look up. In fact, you can look it up now on your phone. That's the great thing. Do it. I agree. Hey, you know what? I love that we can disagree. I love the way we can disagree. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up.
Policy, they're not letting in the Muslim immigrants.
I'm gonna figure out a good way for us to exit because there's a couple different options right here. So now, once again, I said this was sponsored by Tick Liquor Firearms, so everyone check out Tick Liquor Firearms, they're awesome. And thanks for joining us here at Free Speech Northwest. If you want to remain here for a minute, we're gonna figure out the best way to exit. And if you're still here, Michael Cross has something to say about what he's doing.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Hi guys, Media Shadow here. I'm trying to grow the channel and hopefully get more than one video out a week. So if you like what you've seen, please give me a like, subscribe, share, or drop me some coin on Patreon. I've left a link in the description of the video. Thanks!